Here we go. Another good Friday and another good opportunity. Thank you all for hanging out. Um, whether you're whether you're here in Florida or some of us in other places that I noticed that are logging on. Thank you so much for sitting around the table, sitting around your desk, sitting around wherever you're sitting around, or maybe in your car during your lunch break at work. But thank you for just spending 15, 20 minutes today. Is going to be uh, a shorter lunch break webinar than our normal 30 minutes. But today I want to focus in on giving yourself a raise in 2015. Well, how do you do that? Well, we're going to go more into specifics on how we do it, but let's take a step back and how awesome it is to have more of your income working for you or doing the things you want to do with your income by being intentional. By being intentional or by budgeting, by putting your money in envelopes or being as disciplined as you can be. Obviously, some days or some weeks or some months are more harder than others or more easier than others. But if we can strive to stay disciplined in our spending and where our money is going, or if we're not in a position of where we're happy or satisfied where we're employed or our current situation of our employment, but when we are having income come in, by being intentional with it and by budgeting with it, research shows that we're giving ourselves an extra 5 or 10% more each month. So let's do math in public. If you're making $1,000 a month, you're going to have an extra $100 more to play with. If you're making $10,000 a month, you're going to have an extra $1,000 to we can say play with or to do what you want to do with. But what are you doing with your income to be intentional so you're not wasteful spending? So again, today's focus is on giving yourself a raise. Okay. And now diving into it a little bit more, when you have that income, ultimately, we're using it to give in areas, save for areas, and live in areas. Part of your budget, you're going to have areas for entertainment. Part of your budget, you're going to have areas to save, to prepare for that cushion for when life happens, not if life happens, but when life happens. And you're going to have portions of your budget to give, whether your faith is into giving to your local church, great, give to your local church. Or you're a non-believer and you're supporting a homeless shelter that you feel led to give or want to support, give to that. But regardless, we're having areas in our budget to do all three of those: give, save, and live. So we're going to get that extra 10% by being intentional, so we can have more margin in our lives to live more and to save more and to give more. And again, some of those months, some of those weeks, some of those days are going to be harder than others. But at the beginning of every month, let me say this again, those of you that were maybe browsing around the internet or texting, really focusing on this. If we do these things, if we budget these things at the beginning of every month, whether it's on your paper towel, whether it's on a piece of paper or an Excel spreadsheet, at the beginning of every month, I'm going to say it one more time, at the beginning of every month, sit down and plan out what you want to do with the dollars that you make. Obviously, you're going to have things pop up in the middle of the month. Life changes. Things happen. You're going to have to adapt. But for the most part, you can plan on giving yourself discipline on, this is how much money I have for restaurants. This is how much money I have for entertainment. This is how much money I have for traveling. So that when you do travel, you're not just recklessly spending. Or so that when you are hungry, you're not just casually going to fast foods and restaurants to feed yourself over and over and over again. Just in the restaurant area alone, love restaurants, went out to one last night, but let's just be intentional with the amount of money that we have to spend at those restaurants. And when that weekly amount for those restaurants is over with, guess what? We can't go out to eat until next week. Wham, 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 right? I mean, it's not that tough as far as how good we have it. We might have to say no a couple of times. We might have to turn down that offer of going out to lunch with our coworkers. But next week rolls around, we have more money to go to out for restaurants, or if you want, however you want to do it. Fund your budget how you want to fund it. If you want to load it up in a lot of saving, and that means you're not living as much as far as you're not going out of town as much, or you're not eating out as much, or you're not doing things like traveling and like going out. That's fine if that's what you want to do and you want to save more. Great. Or if you want to do things like live more, like go on cruises or like go on vacations, that's great too. Then fund your budget on funding FUND, funding those things that are fun, FUN. You want to fund things FUND, like giving more in those areas, load up in giving. However you want to manipulate your budget. But at the end of the day, Gulf Power doesn't care who you gave to. Your cell phone company doesn't care who you gave to. They want the amount of money that's owed to them, which is okay. We signed up for services. We got to pay them. If you can't pay them, that's another lunch break webinar another day. But today we're focusing on give yourself a raise. So I'm gonna take a quick breather on the dialogue box over there. Type in on a scale of 1 to 10 how excited you are. It's Friday. Okay. Mandy says 10 exclamation point. I hear you. That's awesome. Okay, so with that said, giving yourself a raise, and then just went over on how we're doing those things. It's not going to go as planned each and every month. Right now you don't know if you haven't broken down and done a budget in a while. You're not going to know how much you eat out every month. But a scary thing is you go back and look at some of your online statements and calculate and count up just the past 3 months how much you've been at restaurants. It's scary how much you could have done with that money. Again, not that those restaurants are bad, but let's not eat away our retirement. Okay, let me say that again. Let's not eat away our retirement. So again, giving yourself a raise in 2015. How do we do it, and why do we do it? The whys are going to really funnel your whats. Your whats are the budget itself. Your whats are going to work. Your whats are setting your alarm so you can go to work. Those are your whats. But the why you're doing those things are going to fuel and motivate you, encourage you, and empower you to do the whats, to do the budget, to do the alarm clock, to drive in the cold, rainy days early in the morning to get to work. The whys are going to funnel your what. So let's take a step back. Okay, we've elaborated more on how to give yourself a raise in 2015 because we want more money, the extra 10% more money to do things in our giving areas, saving areas, and living areas to do more with. But what is the why that makes you want to do more, or that makes you want to have more? Is it being fueled by the why of so I can go on that vacation that I've always wanted to go on? If that's the why that's fueling you to get up and go to work every day, great. If your why is to feed those kids that are living in your house, awesome. If your why is to save more so that when your time on this earth is up, your beneficiaries are going to have more to do what God's called them to do in their life, great. Whatever your why is that's fueling you, I challenge you this. That why that fuels you, ask yourself, is that a healthy why? Am I being primarily led by a healthy why? Is what's fueling me toxic? Let me give you an example. If what's fueling you to wake up every day and make some more money is so that you can have a bigger house and a bigger car than your neighbor, not that the bigger houses or bigger cars are bad, but if that's fueling you and your primary focus is to have that bigger car so that you can impress your neighbor that you don't even like anyways, is that toxic? Yeah, there's things in my life that are toxic as far as sometimes that that fuels me. But because of those convictions at times, because if I have to check myself and ask what's fueling me, it realigns me and puts me in a position to remind myself why and how the good Lord's blessed me beyond measures of in result of that. What am I doing to represent Him? Is what's fueling me to better represent Him? Sometimes it is. To be honest, sometimes I get off track. But I don't want you to change your decision or change what's fueling you. I just want you to ask that question of what is fueling your why. And if what's fueling your why is keeping you from doing things that you've always wanted to do, I challenge you to find another why. Find a why that, everyone wants to be a part of something. I don't care if, regardless of age, gender, race, religion, it feels good to be a part of an athletic team. For some people, it feels good to be a part of a gang. For some people, it feels good to be a part of a tennis club. For some people, it feels good to fill in the blank. We all want to be loved. We all want to be a part of something. So you're going to do what you want to do. Again, not that all those things that you want to do is always a bad thing. But ask yourself, what is motivating you to do those things? Why do you want to do those things? So let's take a few moments. We've talked about the budget. Those are the what's that's going to give us that raise. That's going to give us that 10% more in 2015 just by being intentional. We talked about it not going to go. It's not going to go smooth each and every month, but we got to steer the ship back on course. But now take a moment to really just focus on what's your whys as we finish up these last few minutes. What's fueling you to get up every day? What's fueling you to take a time out from work and to gather yourself and to gather your thought process on better managing your money that you've been blessed to have? Okay, some of you already know without hesitation what your why is. Some of us are churning and figuring out why we do what we do. But throughout the week, throughout the weekend, challenge you two things. What's your why? And what's fueling you to get that why? What's your motivating factor of that why? And I don't want you to change anything. Just ask that question. Think through the things that you do each and every day. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into years. But reflect back. Take some time this week to reflect back on what motivates you deep down inside. What fires you up to get to work to make that paycheck? And I want to encourage you to consider your primary focus, to consider your primary source of motivation to do what the good Lord wants you to do while you're here on this earth for a short period of time. Whether it's being the best secretary that you can be, or being the best farmer that you can be, or being the best accountant that you can be, or being the best lawyer that you can be, to serve the people that are on this earth and to hopefully be a representation of God's love and of God's grace and somehow plant that seed in that person or in that client's life. I encourage that to take place in your day-to-day life. I encourage for that to take place in your workplace. Those of you that own businesses or a supervisor for departments or whatever area of influence or of your coworkers you may have, more than what you realize, I encourage you to challenge yourself or challenge others of having that primary motivation to be giving God glory through everything that you do. So until next time, we'll hang out again next Friday. Sorry to cut it short this week. Got to go. But until next time, give more, save more, and live more.